All right, guys, this is Normal Central coming back at you with a YouTube video, and I really appreciate so far the love and support y'all shown on all of my YouTube videos so far. Be sure to follow my social media accounts at the bottom here on Instagram and also on Twitter. That is where I'm mostly at, but I do try to get out as much YouTube videos as I can just to try to get as much information as I can about Florida State football recruiting, everything in between. We try to stay within the football program because my name does associate itself with Mike Norvell, the head football coach at Florida State. So we just try to do that, but I really do appreciate all the love and support so far on all these videos that I've had. Be sure to hit the like button and also be sure to subscribe to the channel. It is completely free. And let's go ahead and get straight into it. So Florida State is currently ranked 14th in the 247 composite rankings, and it is kind of an interesting development because a lot of people were talking about how Florida State's recruiting was kind of off and didn't really know what to expect because Florida State going into the month of July, they didn't really have a commitment since August 17th, whenever Landon Thomas, actually flipped his pledge from Georgia to Florida State. So that is kind of important to understand is Florida State didn't really have the momentum people were talking about. Then you go over and have the arch rival Florida Gators having a little bit more momentum. Miami was getting their 3 stars here and there, had a highly touted prospect they had recently. But just kind of looking at Florida State's board so far, people are still a little bit more concerned about the defense side of the ball, specifically on the defensive line as well as the linebackers. They've only got 1 linebacker commit in Jaden Parrish, and also they've got 2 defensive linemen commit in Dede Holmes, who just committed in July, and then also Jamari Flagg, who is a defensive tackle. Biggest thing is a lot of people are talking about the lack of defensive tackle prospects that we've had so far because you've had a couple of guys in the defensive end room that maybe you feel okay about, I guess, but when it comes to defensive tackle, you don't have many options. The biggest option is LJ McCray. He is a 4-star defensive tackle out of Mainland High School in Daytona Beach. That is kind of a guy Florida State's been going after for quite some time. He actually visited in January and in March, but hasn't been to Florida State since. You know, you look at his recent official visits that he's had, he's went to Florida June the 2nd through the 4th, Miami June the 9th through the 11th, and then turn around and go straight to Auburn, June 12th to the 14th. And then you also had Georgia, who he visited between 16th and 18th. So you're looking at those official visits and you're like, man, why didn't Florida State able to get him on in the June 23rd official visit where everybody was coming to campus? But Florida State kind of opted to go an in-season recruitment with this, and they actually were able to schedule a visit with him October 7th against Virginia Tech. And it's an important aspect. But the problem is he may be ready to commit pretty soon. Now, if he does commit to a program, let's just say Florida, for example, because I know that that's where some people kind of think he may lean towards. But when you look at that, I mean, can he be able to come back to Florida State in the middle of the season and kind of consider the Seminoles? I mean, that's a really big aspect with everything going on. And you look at Fabian Lovett. He's going to be basically a redshirt senior this upcoming season, and he's going to be going after this year. Braden Fisk is another guy that you're looking at. Dennis Briggs. I mean, and then you also got Jared Verse on the defensive end spot that's going to be leaving too. So that defensive line is going to be kind of bare. You're going to have some of those younger guys step up, and I think that's something Florida State's kind of monitoring. Can they continue to keep going to the transfer portal? Are they going to be able to develop their homegrown talent that they've been able to get on the recruiting trail? That's something to be seen. But definitely next year is going to be a pivotal season for Odell and John Papuchis as well. I think LJ McCray, he has got to visit this summer because I think if you go into the summer and you don't have him visit since March, he could end up going to another school, and then you're kind of left with nobody at that point. Artavius Jones is another guy they're kind of looking at, a 4-star prospect. And then you also got Denaz White as well, a 3-star defensive tackle they're kind of looking at too. Maybe a Kamarion Franklin from Mississippi. Maybe he might transfer over to the defensive end spot if he puts a little bit more weight on him. I think he's at like 260 right now. If he goes up to 280, maybe he might be a defensive tackle. I view him more as an end, but we'll kind of see where that kind of plays out. But, Booker Pickett's another guy, the 4-star defensive end that they're looking at. I don't think he's going to convert over to tackle. So you're really looking to expand the board, and you're probably going to have to get some new offers out there. But, McCray is definitely a big get for Florida State if they're able to do so because he is a top 100 prospect. And, all these other schools are looking at him, and can Florida State be able to get him back on campus? I thought it was going to be kind of a slam dunk that Florida State was able to get him back on campus in summer just because of how many times he's visited so far, but it just doesn't seem that way. So I know at one point he was a defensive end. He's kind of converting his body over to a defensive tackle at this point. He's about 280, 275 now. I know that his 247 account says 260, but I think he's gotten a little bit bigger, more of a three technique kind of guy. And I think it could be a guy that Florida State can go after. But the problem is just getting him on campus. I think that's the biggest problem going forward there. And I think Odell's got to do a good job in being able to get him on campus at that point. But I think this is going to be a good way to figure out what Florida State's defensive staff is going to do, especially on the defensive line, because you have to figure out something at that point. And I think Florida State's going to do what they have to do, especially considering what the talent they have on the defensive line. Maybe if you're able to showcase some of that talent during the middle of the season, it can be able to translate to more recruits kind of swaying towards Florida State's way. It's definitely not over. The board's going to have to keep getting expanded. And what's going to happen in July with the recruiting board is going to definitely change when it comes down to October and even November at this point. Boards change all the time. Florida State's class is probably going to be about 90% full, maybe 85% full by the time around August hits. So Florida State's probably going to go big game hunting for a couple of these prospects, and we're going to have to just see how the defensive line kind of pans out with that. But I think Florida State in a good spot with some of the defensive targets, but defensive tackle is a little bit worrisome right now, but we'll see how it pans out. But I really appreciate all the love and support as always. Be sure to hit the like button. Like I said before, it's completely free. Let's go ahead and try to get this up to 60 likes. We'll see how that goes. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm just trying to get out as much content as I can on Florida State football recruiting. And I know it's a big cycle. It's ever changing. Every day a change is happening because these are teenagers making the biggest decisions of their life. And you just want to make sure they make the best decision for them and their loved ones as well. But I really appreciate it as always. And go Noles.